Hello, I'm Larry McGilvery. I've known Claire, we've known each other 3/4 of our lives at Pomona College. And I wrote this up for Claire. Uh-oh, she says. Uh-oh, indeed, where do you hear it? In an era poisoned by Joseph McCarthy, a time when the Pomona College newspaper one semester identified student apathy of all things as the chief problem on campus, Claire was vivid, unmistakable, irreplaceable. I could talk about her prodigious recall of events and places that mattered to her, a faculty I deeply envy, but she does it so much better. Ask her about the architecture of Far Eastern Russia. I think there's a photograph over there on one of those boards of one of those buildings you described to me. Or about being the only young woman in a mining camp in southern Israel. That's quite a story. Someone should take Claire on a long trip, like about 2 weeks, and keep a tape recorder on the whole time, just to get all of this down. I could describe her remarkable work at Junior Arts Center in Barnstable Park, Hollywood, cheek by jowl with Frank Lloyd Wright's Hollyhock House. Under her leadership, the Junior Arts Center became a model for children's programs everywhere. She had to balance and satisfy at least 6 competing constituencies: the Byzantine web of city bureaucracy, a board of high-powered LA leaders, a support group of expensively groomed West Side matrons, the parents, ambitious, anxious, sometimes angry, the often predictable artists she hired as teachers, and finally, the dear children at the heart of the whole enterprise. I saw her in action a few times, and it was like watching Magic Theater. My energetic, bustling friend, holder of a lifetime Olympic gold medal in non-stop talking. Oh wait, that's better. Oh no. Transformed into an attentive and caring listener, a just and kindly settler of disputes, a seer. And no, I'm not making that up. The powers that be rewarded this brilliant effort by appointing a lesser person as the head of the City Arts Department, thus allowing Claire to return home in triumph a couple of years later as the art czar of San Francisco. Claire's sublimely beautiful bar mitzvah at the Temple Emmanuel was a moving experience, but many of us here were there. And I couldn't begin to do it justice. Your account, Claire, of what led you from a bucolic landscape in Poland to the temple that afternoon demands publication.
Thank you.
Lots of grand themes there, but you'll have to set it for a miniature for me. A good deal longer in the telling than the event, so pay attention, please. I relate this story with slight reluctance, very, very slight, because Claire has never quite understood it. She couldn't. She was the actor, the protagonist, the rest of us merely the fortunate onlookers. And if ever there was a time to explain this story, that time is right now. The 6 of us, Claire and Bill, the best husband in San Francisco, according to her mother's cook, who was in a position to know.
That's true.
That's her line, not mine. Claire and Bill, Whitney and Derek, my late wife Jerry and I had gone to an African restaurant near their home for dinner. My, we enjoyed that. I suppose the other 2 couples had rolled hands at this interesting food, but it was new to the 2 of us. The soft, moist pancake of bread filling a large plate and ornamented around with dollops of foods we had never tasted before. On the way back to Pierce Street, Claire stopped at an ice cream store and bought a couple of pints. In the kitchen, she began filling up dessert dishes. Is any of this coming back to you, Claire?
I don't know what happened after that.
In a moment.
I really don't know what this is.
At that time, Claire and Bill owned, or more properly, were owned, by 2 unrelated black cats.
Yes.
They were nestled together on a high stool. Whitney, over there somewhere, Whitney took in this touching scene and asked a simple question. Are they littermates? I knew they weren't, but I stayed mum. Claire looked up, the scoop in her hand. A second passed. Another, no more. Before she replied with more than a trace of discomfort, Why, yes, they do share the same box.
I don't remember this at all. I really don't remember that.
It was a good line. A surprising one. 6 educated people, at least two of us word phonetics, never had noticed this verbal oddity. A good line, but why did that simple response reduce 5 of Claire's closest friends to helpless laughter for 3, 4, 5 minutes? We had the advantage, for we could see what she couldn't. A swift cascade of emotions fleeted across her so expressive face with a precision that let us read her thoughts perfectly as she navigated what I will call the 5 stages of faux pas. And that's your guest's faux pas, not your own. First, astonishment. What did she say? Then disbelief. She couldn't defend what I think. Disgust. She did. A frantic search for an explanation. Why is my dear level-headed friend so interested in my cat's digestive systems? And at last, because there was no explanation and time had run out, an attempt to make the best of an awkward situation by replying with cool politeness, why, yes, they do share the same box. It was a performance worth an Oscar.
Thank you.